Okay, it is 6:15 a.m. in the United Kingdom, and UFC 285 Jones versus Cyril Gane has just finished taking place. Now, my plan was to do a kind of a prelims breakdown of the first 5 fights, but given how long all these fights were and how many there were, I figured I would have to break this down into 3 videos, and nobody wants that for one card. So I figured what I'd do is I'd shoot through the first 5 pretty quickly, then continue on with the prelim card, or what I would call the main prelim card in this instance, and then I'll do a separate main card video as always, or else we're going to be here for an hour. As always, please like and subscribe, it's always appreciated. Right, first fight on the card was a late one. It was announced last week. I didn't originally put this on my original fight breakdown, but I sent a prediction out on the Discord and put it in the comments of the prelim prediction video just to get my pick out there. I picked Radzhabov. It was a really close fight. Now, the main story of it is they both looked reasonably decent on the feet. Radzhabov had the better moments and the more impactful moments. What kind of stuck out to me from this, in what was a clear unanimous decision win for Radzhabov, is he was very good at getting Ribas to the ground, but he found it very hard to keep him down there, and that might be something to look out for moving forward. Radzhabov is good. He's older in his career. He's just entering the UFC now. He could potentially do some decent things in a very, very tough division. I think Ribas deserves another shot as well. Like I said, Radzhabov ended up taking this by unanimous decision, and this started me off with a 1-0 record. Alright, the next fight was Farid Basharat versus Damon Blackshear. Like I said, I'm just going to whiz through these. This turned out to be a pretty high-level scrap after I figured Basharat was going to just mow through Blackshear, and credit to Damon for actually turning this into a somewhat competitive fight. Now, I do say somewhat competitive because, for me, Basharat won all 3 rounds. The thing is that I think Basharat just basically managed to have the best moments at the key points in the rounds. He looked very slick on the feet. He had some nice takedowns. I don't actually think he's as good as his brother. He is a little bit younger, and there were some definite positives to take from this. But really, Damon Blackshear has had some horrible losses in his career, and maybe it was just a bit of nerves, you know, your first fight in the UFC on such a massive card. But I wasn't terribly impressed with Basharat, especially with how good his brother is. He got the job done. It's always hard to go out there your first try. You're 25 years old. It was a clear UD win, but I think he's going to have to improve greatly moving forward if he's going to make any waves in a very talented and rich bantamweight pool. But yeah, this took me to 2-0. All right, now for the third fight, I called Tabitha Ricci on this one. This was a pretty dominant performance from her. The key moments again, she basically was able to take Penne down at the right moments. She looked pretty good on the feet. The fight was basically defined by 2 really nice hip tosses that Ricci got at different stages. The first one came in the first round where she got the hip toss, laid on top, got some nice ground and pound, won the first round pretty easily. Now, normally in MMA, in men's MMA, that would be a 10-9, but in women's MMA, it was probably like a 10-2 or something. Then Penne, in the second, she came out looking defeated, and just Ricci, again, got a really, really, really beautifully taken hip toss again. And this time she was able to lock up an excellent armbar, which, to be fair, she transitioned into excellently. Really nice sub win. I called it exactly as that. So, yeah, Ricci got the job by sub, and that took me to 3-0. All right, now this is where the card really got going for me. And again, very similar situation for Simon that he had in his last fight. This guy seems to have an issue with nut shots and eye pokes, and he did plenty of those in this fight. And they really came at very, very crucial moments. Now, in the first instance, the reason why it was quite significant is in the first round, Mana Martinez hit Simon with a really nice leg kick, and it kind of ended up disrupting his perennial nerve, and Simon looked really wobbly in there. Mana didn't manage to spot it, and Simon kind of, disguised it by hitting body shots with the leg and still using his leg fairly effectively. But watching it, you could see he was very uneven on that leg. And it was the nut shot that came that gave Simon 2 minutes to basically recover, and that's where the fight basically turned. Now, the second nut shot that Simon hit at the end of the first round, he ended up getting a point docked for, and I thought this was really unfair, because essentially Mana Martinez was ducking down into the nut shots. You could see Simon was throwing them, and they were intended to hit the thigh and below, but Mana Martinez was kind of ducking down, and I felt he was responsible for both. Anyway, Simon ended up looking really good on the feet, has really nice takedowns. He was landing the crisper strikes throughout. Mana Martinez was in this fight, as I said he would be, and it was the body kicks for me from Simon that really told the tale in this one. Third round, again, another significant moment. Simon got a really bad eye poke, and full credit to Mana Martinez. He didn't quit because he was clearly losing, and he could have taken a way out, but didn't. Again, Simon's going to have to be really careful moving forward, because 3 big infractions in that fight. I've seen people get DQ'd for less, even though the first 2 technically weren't his fault. I will say as well that because they did stop the fight at the 2-minute mark, and the fight was stopped for 2 minutes in the first round, they really need to start looking at replays in these situations, because fighters could lose their livelihood for shitty moments like this. Anyway, Simon was really impressive. He got the win. It was a split decision, majority decision. One of the judges called it a draw, which was bizarre to me. I felt like the first round was 9-9. The other 2 were clear for Simon. And the judging was all over the place. And that, to me, was troubling. I thought, oh, this is not a good omen. Anyway, took me to 4-0. Really, really good start. Now, the last fight on the pre-prelims, I guess you could call it, was Ian, and I'm not saying his wife's surname as well, Garry, versus Kenan Song. Now, this was a funny one. Ian Garry pretty much dominated 95% of this fight. He was really patient, picking well at range. There was one moment at the end of the first, though, where he got a little bit sloppy, and Kenan caught him, and Garry was lucky to make it out of the round. He was really lucky to make it out of the round. If he'd fought somebody with a better IQ, I feel like he would have lost this fight, because instead of keeping the fight standing and finishing him off, Kenan chose to try and take him down, which to me was just mind-boggling. He clearly had him hurt, and he didn't take advantage of the situation. And then Garry just reset, thought, right, you know what, I'm just going to pick at range, do what I do best. And then he clearly won the last 2 rounds. He did look very impressive on the feet. He looks very good in there. He ended up winning the fight by TKO. Now, the ending was actually very impressive. So with about a minute to go, Garry had been piecing him up for the better part of the last 2 rounds, and then he just turned on the gas tank with a minute to go. Absolutely blitzed him, and yeah, very, very impressive. I haven't seen much of Garry's takedown defense yet, so we don't know how he's going to be when he actually fights some of the better wrestlers in the division moving forward. But as I said, I think the UFC are going to baby him. All right, now Garry called for a fight in Miami in 5 weeks' time, which I really liked. He also wasn't too cringy on the mic, which I appreciated. Somebody called him out on social media. I can't remember who it was. I'm going to have a quick look back and stick it in the comments, because it's not in my notes for some reason. But yeah, impressive performance, and quite fortunate, if I'm being honest. All right, so now we move on to the prelims, the real prelims. Now, Marquez is a fucking dipshit, but he's a dangerous one. And Barriault is not exactly what I would call a finisher, or at least I didn't going into this. I picked Barriault to win, just because Marquez seems more interested in chasing celebrity tail. Mad respect for that. Maybe that's a little unfair, actually. He has landed with a new gym, and he's got some really good training partners now, so respect for that. Marquez had the slightly better of the early exchanges. Despite seeming to catch the better shots, though, Marquez appeared to be wearing more damage around the eye, and I couldn't really see where that had happened. Barriault started finding a few counters later on and showing that he was still in the fight. Now, Marquez seemed a little bit more calculated in his striking and less wild than he has been in the past, which looked to be a very good sign for him early on. He's clearly been working on things. Marquez then started unloading and took a little bit more control of the round at that point. So Barriault started dipping out towards the end of the round, and he caught a few more shots at the end. Barriault was generally defending really well, and to close the round out, Marquez upped the pace with really good corner advice to put pressure on, and he landed some good shots at the end of the round. And this left Barriault wearing some really bad damage. So this was a clear round 1 to Marquez. At this point, I was looking at Barriault's high guard, and I was thinking, If Marquez starts going to the body here, he could really do some damage and take over this fight and see it out. But unfortunately, he didn't for him. And I think this is what cost him this fight. Now, as the second round started, Barriault was finding more shots, causing damage to the eye. And it was clear that Marquez was starting to slow down, which was, for me, was a big concern going in. Barriault pushed him up against the cage and started unloading shots to the body and face. It felt a little bit like we were entering into Barriault's wheelhouse at this point, and wouldn't you know it, Marquez started predictably swinging wildly, looking like his old ridiculous self, and this was a strong indication that he was about to gas, which he did. Barriault looked like he'd been waiting for this and started fucking him up, throwing elbows, throwing shots. He beat the shit out of him for about 2 minutes. Now, the fight probably should have been called off sooner. He must have hit him with about 100 unanswered shots. Barriault showed an incredible gas tank here. Now, the ref gave Marquez every chance, and maybe too many chances, and eventually just had to step in. He wasn't answering anything. Brutal, really. Definitely. I called it perfectly. Marc-Andre Barriault by TKO. And yep, I moved up to 6-0. Alright, now this one really pissed me off. This was basically my coin toss fight of the card. To be fair, I'm usually very rude about women's MMA, and rightfully so. However, on paper at least, this was a matchup that was even on paper and at least made sense. Maybe not in the rankings because Ribas is not ranked in this division, but in terms of their standings in the UFC, this kind of made sense. By the way, this is a fantastic card so far. I just have to point that out. Really good fights. Now, both women started with really high energy. Both women were exchanging shots. They both fired a double leg kick and kind of clattered into each other, which looked particularly nasty. There was an early guillotine pull by Aruajo, which usually is the go-to move of the idiot, but Ribas was almost locked into it and just managed to kind of pull her head out. And I was stunned by this because that move is usually fatal in women's MMA, and Ribas ended up on top as a result. There was little time spent on bottom, and Aruajo managed to chain positions and escape, bringing it back to the feet. Now, Aruajo hit the chin with a minute to go and started looking really confident. Both women were catching each other a bit, and it was a very hard round to call. Given this is women's MMA though, and the rules are different for some reason, I think it would have been given to Amanda for the control time, where she did fuck all. Aruajo was looking a little better on the feet to start out, and Ribas' corner smartly told her that she probably lost a round. I really like that shit, as it definitely lit a fire under her. Now, early into the second, Ribas dropped her very early with a shot to the right when Aruajo came rushing in, and she ended up falling on bottom, so Ribas had control. This was a total loss of concentration, and I instantly thought, oh god, now she's going to have to waste time getting up again, and I really didn't like this for her. I felt this was the moment she threw the fight in the bin. Ribas was not going to let this moment go. She stayed on top, smartly hitting shots. Eventually, she took the back. Again, in women's MMA, this can get called a 10-8. And so going into the third, I felt like Aruajo needed a finish here, with the first round being as close as it was. Ribas began pulling out in the third. She was growing in confidence as the round went on. It was clear that Aruajo was done, and Ribas just was picking her shots. Fortunately, I took my own advice on this one, and I took the over 2.5 on this, or I would have been extremely annoyed. Ribas did hit some really well-placed shots as Aruajo gassed out. She did have a last-minute chance to grab the arm and almost locked it in, but again, Ribas slipped out. Really nice win for her. A very clear unanimous decision. I had it 40-36, I think I had it. Well, sorry, 30-26. So I had her with a 10-8 in the second. And oh, by the way, I got totally caught off guard with the post-fight interview. Ribas has the most annoying voice. I completely forgot about it. It's Angela Hill territory, if you know how she sounds. I had my headphones on blast at the time, and I'm pretty sure I've got tinnitus now. Anyway, she called out Carla Esparza at strawweight. You know, yeah, all right, why not? You know, you finally get ranked at flyweight, and then you jump back down divisions. For fuck's sake. Anyway, next came Derek the Parlay Killer Brunson. And I moved to, 6-1. Still a great start on the card. I was really chuffed. But yeah, moved to 6-1. Alright, now this was a nice matchup. Against my better judgment, I picked du Plessis in this one. Brunson is number 5 in the division. Bloody hell. Get the fuck out of here. What a crappy division middleweight is. Anyway, the fight started with a really heavy leg kick. And then instantly, Dricus made his first mistake. He kicked a shot to the body and instantly got taken down. Now, I felt that Du Plessis has some really decent wrestling, but Brunson very easily framed him to the ground, and I was instantly concerned. Dricus has, as we know, quite a bad gas tank issue, even though he claims he doesn't. And he used up a lot in this opening frame. Perfect start for Brunson. Then the idiot let him up and tried to pull a ghillie. So Dricus popped his head out, and I was so relieved. I know I'm supposed to be impartial, but fuck me. Anyway, a double footlock came next, which looks so damn silly. They were both trying to footlock each other at the same time. And as a result of this clowning and rolling around, Derek Brunson managed to catch the back. Dricus did really well to get it back to the feet. Then Brunson started unloading, which is very un-Brunson-like. Then Du Plessis tried to go for a fucking takedown, and I was screaming at my monitor at this point. Brunson managed to get the back. Dricus did really, really well to survive. But I was thinking, surely he's used up the gas tank. For me, it was 1-0 Brunson, got the first round. And this was turning into exactly the fight he wanted. He did get wobbled a little bit at the end with an elbow. But yeah, generally I think he got the round and he had enough time to recover. Now, at the beginning of the second, Du Plessis made a really smart move. Kicked a really nasty low calf kick at the start. And he was smartly investing to the body. As was Brunson. I was thinking, oh, he's going to gas him out. He's going to gas him out. But what really stood out to me is Dricus remained patient, which is what I've been calling for him to do. And his left started finding home. And then at one point in the middle of the round, he hit him with an absolutely filthy right. And then fought off a takedown, which was so important at this stage of the fight. And Derek's leg was clearly compromised, and he started winging shots, which is, if you've seen Derek Brunson fights in the past, you know this is when he's about to fuck things up. Then Dricus hit a really big to the body. Both men started swinging. I'll tell you what, this was a really fun fight. Dricus started teeing off. He was clearly being more accurate. Then with 20 seconds to go in the round, he dropped him, got on top quick as you like, started raining down massive elbows on top. And the last shot was a big sort of hammer fist right to the face. Brunson clearly went out with literally a second to go. And the corner threw the towel in. I actually really respect this decision. He looked fucked. What a win for Dricus. I was absolutely buzzing for this. I picked him, went to 7-1. I was over the moon. Really love Dricus as a personality and as a fighter. And then I realized, oh man, Cody Garbrant's next. What have I done? And this would bring me to the end of the prelims. Now, I said this in the build-up, and regardless of how this plays out, Cody being picked as a 2-1 favorite is bananas to me. I feel like the UFC really tried to give Cody a layup here, and boy... Okay, Cody started off really well. He snapped some nice body kicks, looked like a really decent start. He got down low, and he threw this really funny, like, Mortal Kombat style leg kick, like where you got down low and sort of did a sweeping kick. A bit like Kung Lee in the old game, if any of you remember that. I've never seen that in the cage before. One thing I liked about this fight for Garbrant going into it is that Jones doesn't really have a lot of output, which really worked well for Cody here early on. He needed somebody who was going to let him settle in. And I just felt at this point that Cody needed to stay patient, be smart, avoid a firefight. And then the prick started dancing. And I was thinking, mate, you've been knocked out so many times. Don't start fucking around now. I know you're doing all right, but chill out. Then Cody hit a nice body shot. He again seemed to be controlling the fight. And now what was interesting about this was Cody was throwing a lot less hands in this round and going for more kicks, which really impressed me as a strategy early on. And I'm sure Jones wasn't expecting this. It really threw him off. Cody started switching stances, dipping in and out, started to take a few risks. Despite the silly behavior, it was a very good first round for Cody, clear 1-0. Now, the start of the round, second round, Jones tried to fly in, and Cody landed a really excellent double leg takedown. So well timed. I called for this in the build-up, and even though it didn't end up amounting to much, Jones kind of popped back up. You felt like, okay, this is going to give Jones something to think about moving forward, which was really good to see. Joe Rogan instantly started sucking him off. Then at this point, which really started to make me worry, then landed another really nice takedown. I'm thinking, damn, this is what I hoped he would do. And this is why your boy's a genius here. Nobody else called that. Now, it looked like he might get guillotined, but Cody managed to pop his head out. He took some time to rest on top. Again, stayed patient, moved into different positions. He found Jones's back. And I felt like this was a clear path to victory for me. And it was really refreshing to see Cody go back to the drawing board and actually implement a game plan that was going to work. Then Jones, at the very end of the second round, this was quite funny. He went for a takedown and his own corner started yelling and booing at him. Again, clear Cody round, 2-0. Now, Cody went in hard at the beginning, and he almost got caught on that dusty chin. Now, the fight metrics came up in this one, and apparently Jones had only landed 8 shots in the entire fight. Cody started acting like a prat though, and this got me worried. First half of the round, there was barely anything thrown. Both of them kept their distance. It seemed to me like Cody knew he'd got the first 2, didn't want to take any risks. But with 2 minutes left, again came that Cody Garbrant moment of truth. Cody got caught with a few shots and you could just see his chin quivering in the wind. Cody did do the smart thing here, grabbed hold of him. Jones landed a takedown that probably secured him the round. Now, Cody did get this win. He got it by unanimous decision, clearly lost the 3rd round, but this man is a moron. The next fight he's going to get knocked the fuck out. I don't care who it is. I'm glad I picked him though. It took me to 8-1. All right. Now, due to the length of this card, I'm going to cut it here. We're going to get the main card next. Thanks to everyone for sticking with me. Like I said, I was going to do it for 3 videos, but decided against it. Thanks to everyone who's sticking with me, and please like and subscribe if you're new here. So yeah, I'll see you all for what was a banger of a main card. You're going to want to tune in for that.